Hi everyone. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about the pronunciation of the ed suffix in English. So let's go ahead and get started. One thing that's important to understand as we begin this lesson is the difference between letters and sounds. So this can be a little bit confusing, but it is very helpful once you understand. So, letters are what we know from the alphabet. They have the alphabet names of A, B, C. The letters are what you see when you read a word. They're used for spelling. Sounds, however, are more like the phonetics. So, this is what you hear. The fact that letters and sounds are different in English is why spelling in English is so confusing, right? So let's take the example down below. We have Pacific Ocean. So here you will notice that the letter C is found 3 times in this proper noun. However, every time that C is pronounced, it's pronounced with a different pronunciation. Try it. Pacific Ocean. S, k, sh. Ah. So, letters and sounds are 2 different things, okay? Next, I'm going to read you 4 pairs of words. Each pair has 2 words, and I want you to try and identify which of the 2 words in each pair you are hearing. All right, the first one, bet, bet. Rice, rice. Cart, cart. Glue, glue. So if you identified the word that is marked with the green box, then good job. If this was difficult, it's okay. These words are in pairs for a reason. They are very similar. And actually, the only thing that is different between each word in the pair is just one sound. So the difference between pet and bet are the sounds p, b. The difference between rice and rise are s, z. The difference between cart and card are the sounds t and d. And finally, the difference between clue and glue are the sounds k and g. So maybe you notice that as we go through each of those sounds, the mouth shape is really similar. So in p, b, we're making the exact same shape with our mouth. Our lips are in the same position. Our teeth, our tongue, they're all doing the same thing when we pronounce p and b. And the same thing goes for every other set of sounds that I distinguished as being different between these 2 words. So, how is it possible that we can have 2 sounds that are made with the exact same mouth shape, the same placement, and yet be 2 completely different sounds? The answer is voicing. So, voicing is a feature in which we talk about the vocal cords. So, as I said, the shape of the mouth, lip, tongue, teeth placement can all be the same, but whether or not we're using the vocal cords is going to create 2 different sounds. So in a voiced sound, we have active vocal cords. And when our vocal cords are active, we can touch our throat right here and we can feel a vibration. However, it's very important that when you do this test, that you say the sounds in isolation. that means you're not adding any other sounds onto the one you're testing, or you're not saying it as part of a word. So go ahead and touch your throat right here and repeat after me as we say the sounds down below. B, D, V, Z, G, J, L, M, N, J, V, W, Y, and all of the vowel sounds. So notice that I didn't say D, D. I said D, D, right? So that's practicing the sounds in isolation. English has a lot of voiced sounds. All languages have both voiced and voiceless sounds. Let's have a look at the voiceless sounds. When a sound is voiceless, the vocal cords are relaxed. We're not using them. So that means that when we do that test, there will be no vibration in the throat. So let's do the same test and repeat after me for the sounds down here below. These sounds are P, T, F, S, K, Sh, Ch, Th. All right. So this is the difference between voiced and voiceless sounds, and this will be a very important part of our lesson. So remember that we're talking about the suffix ed. Well, first of all, what is a suffix? A suffix is a letter or a group of letters that is added onto the end of the word to make its meaning change or to form a completely new word. So, since we're looking at the ed suffix, let's look at the situations in which it is used. We use ed in 3 different situations. The first is the past simple. This is for regular verbs only. When we want to turn a verb from the present or infinitive into the past simple, we add on an ed. So we could say that want is the root word and ed is the suffix added on to the root. So we get want, wanted. The next use of the ed suffix is in the past participle, also an important part of our lesson this week. So here's where we get it has rained, right? This is when we're using that like perfect tense, right? With has or have or had, we use rained, right? So adding the ed suffix onto the base word rain. Finally, ed also appears in adjectives, such as he's stressed. Can you think of any other adjectives? Maybe excited. All right, so moving on. I have 3 words down below. Each of those words has the ed suffix. And I want you, as I read them aloud, to pay attention to the pronunciation of the ending of each word. So you can see that the letters or the spelling is the same, but is the sound you hear the same or different for each word? I'll read them all twice. Stopped, stopped, used, used, decided, decided. If you heard 3 different pronunciations of that ed ending, you are right. There are 3 different ways that this suffix can be pronounced in English. So those 3 pronunciations are t, d, and id. When we have id, we're adding on a vowel sound. Anytime we have a vowel, we have a syllable. So if we read these words, stopped, returned, started. From stop to stopped, the number of syllables does not change. It's just one syllable. From returned to returned, from return to returned, you still have just one syllable. However, when we go from start to started, we're now adding on an extra syllable. One syllable to two syllables. So we're just adding on the extra syllable. All right, so when does ed sound like t? There are a number of steps to figuring this out. However, it's something that you can practice and learn. Growth mindset. So these two words, we have stopped and worked. What's the base word? What's the word before we add on the ed? In the first case, the word is stop. The final sound in the base word is p. P. P is a voiceless sound. It's very difficult for English speakers to change that quickly from a voiced to a voiceless sound, or a voiceless to a voice sound. So it's difficult for me to say stop, worked. It's very hard. I can't really do it. So the reason why this ed sounds like t, which is voiceless, is because the final sound of the base word is also voiceless. The same thing goes for worked. What's the base word? Work. What's the final sound in work? K. Is that sound voiced or voiceless? It's voiceless. Therefore, ed is going to sound like t, worked. Okay, it's not worked and it's not stopped. All right, the same steps, we apply those same steps all the way across. In this case, the final sound of the base word is n, return, n. N is a voiced sound, so ed is going to sound like d, returned, returned, changed, j, j, d, jd. Not changed. That's not what we do. We're not adding an extra syllable here. So as long as we can identify the base word, which is what comes before that ed suffix, then you have to identify what the final sound is in the base word. Then you identify if that final sound is voiced or voiceless, and from there you can determine your ed ending. Okay? So what's the deal with id, with this extra syllable? This one is a little bit easier. If the base word ends in a T or a D sound, you're going to add on the extra syllable. So here you get started, decided. Here we go from 1 to 2 syllables. Here we go from 2 to 3 syllables. Decide, decided. Okay? So I know that there are quite a few steps involved in doing this, and obviously you're not going to be applying these steps every time you are going to say a word with an ed ending in conversation. However, now you have some awareness, you can do some practice, and you can begin to pay attention to how you are pronouncing these words. All right? So now it's time for you to go into Canvas and practice on your own. Thank you.